Okay, I am going to start this again. Let's see. Hi guys, this is Dr. Sharnael Wolverton-Sehon, and I am excited because tonight, there you go, Kalyn. I just sent a new invitation, Kalyn. Oh, yes, it's going to be exciting. Tonight we're going to discuss some of the things that have been going on this week, and also at 8 o'clock I will be interviewing Crystal and Patrick Washington, and we're going to discuss more specifically him as a police officer, what he's been going through. We can all do as individuals as well. So, all right, she's coming on. I have a special guest here. Really excited to have her. She's the first time she's ever been on here with us. And hey, it looks like it's coming on.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay.
Awesome. Do you have headphones by any chance, or earphones?
I'm working on it. I had to switch devices because apparently invites don't come through iPads. So, can you hear
Oh
me?
no, yes, it's the phone. Yeah, only through the phone. Yes, we can hear you great.
Good. Okay. Awesome. Perfect. The only thing is I'm at about 51% battery life on the phone. So, depending on how long this goes, I may have to unplug the headphones and put in the charger. So.
I understand. Awesome.
Okay.
So, you have never been on as a guest before, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I'm really excited to have you. Just for the people who are out here who have been following me and know me, um, it's been a pretty crazy journey the last few years of just all the waking up period of understanding and remembering and learning, and in the midst of meeting Laura Eisenhower and some other people that you guys have seen me interview, I ran across her Facebook, and I've actually never met her in real life, but I'm just really drawn to her and feel like we're like sisters and in energy. And I mean, we all are anyway, but I was like so just drawn to what she speaks, how she speaks, the place that it comes from, and you guys will see her passion and her love. But I just had to have her on here. So, but please do give us a little background about who you are and what you're about, and then we'll get going on with the topic before your battery life dies.
Yeah. So, guys, I'm Kalyn McDonald, and my brand is called Awakening Humanity. I just launched that beginning of this year, end of last year, I think. I've been around the community for a long time. I've worked with Corey Good. I've worked with Adrienne Youngblood. I've worked on Dimensions of Disclosure. I was the marketing manager for The Cosmic Secret. I'm currently working with Edge of Wonder as their marketing director. So I've been in and around and doing this work for a long time. It's kind of funny to call them typical now, but I have a very typical awakening story. I had big catalytic things happen in my life that got me to where I am, and every year I've been able to grow, whether I wanted to or not, cosmically. That got me here. So, but I mean, all in all, essentially, I'm a truther. I'm a part of the Great Awakening movement. I report a lot on QAnon. My background is actually ancient civilizations and ancient spiritualities. I've never seen Star Wars, and my first UFO conference was 2017. So I'm a little bit of an anomaly, kind of all the way around. But my background, I'm a military intelligence veteran. So the QAnon, the whole QAnon thing, really that was kind of right up my alley. So that was easy to fall into. But overarching of all of those things is my desire to help this planet ascend and go through the shift that it's going through, um, to wake everybody up, to see justice served and to see the oppression lifted. And really truly it's about watching humanity step into their sovereignty, and realize There's one of my favorite memes that I've ever seen was, if you realized how much money was spent on brainwashing you, you would understand how important you really are. And I was like, that kind of sums it up for me. For us to realize our power and realize how incredibly magical we are, um, to see that moment, that's what I work for. So that's kind of my background.
Awesome. Well, and I love your positivity and your very direct approach to every single post that you put out there. You're definitely a researcher. I've seen where you've like put some things up, take some things down. Like, I'm kind of the same where it's like you get this and then you find out like it's not even the real deal. So you're like, cool. And then you just kind of move on and get what the real thing is. But for me, in seeing so many people in this wake up process, you could tell like when people are posting and they're like, it's a different energy, almost like a really angry or hateful kind of, it's just a different energy. And then there's other people where you're like, that the energy that it's coming from, the place that's coming from, is actual just honest love and hope for harmony and unity. And there has been a lot of opportunities for division this week, as you know, and I would love for you to share kind of what your take is. I already know, but just for the people in my group of whatever. And I'm actually going to be interviewing one of my best friend's husbands, who happens to be a black police officer, at 8 o'clock, about 45 minutes from now, because of what they're going through. They're getting death threats. And they're like, we had a funeral this last week, and Crystal was nervous to even leave her children to go to the funeral that was an hour away, because Patrick had received threats, and so has other police officers in our state. And as on a statewide, they were given an email, several threat emails, just from the higher up, like people that they work for, saying be on guard, because they're saying that they know they have addresses of all the police officers, and they're not just going to kill the police officers, but they're going to kill the children of the police officers, the whole family of the police officers. And so it's just like, okay, help me understand. I get that this is terrible, and I am not for any kind of killing, zero killing. Like, if you know anything about me, if a fly comes in my house, I will catch it with a cup and let it out. Like, I'm not down for any kind of injustice at all. But this is a little bit something else, right? I mean, help me out here.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, please tell Patrick and your friend and their family that they are, that they're in my heart and they're in my prayers tonight. And thank him for his service, please. And also, just know that they are who I fight for, because I realize who is the target right now. And so, that gives a face to a lot of the of my posts, right? And so I can, with a military background, one thing that I'll say in favor of the police officers, and I'm at such a place right now. First of all, I am a very direct person. One of my favorite hashtags is "time's up." Like, time's up. That's it. There's no more time. There's no time for pleasantries. There's no more time for, kind of pussyfooting around certain subjects. Like, we are here. In fact, I think we're running a little behind. You know what I mean? And so, and that's my nature. That's my personality. So that's why I fit well in that role, and I play that role in the community. But so at this point, we are, I think, 8 days in, into this, 8 or 9 days into the current false flag that I believe we're all under. So I'm probably going to be even more direct because I'm tired. You know what I mean? My days are spent working all day long, getting information out, and staying up all night long, terrified of the next live video that comes. I've seen a white man beat to death. I think he survived, but now there's rumors that he's died. But to watch it looks like somebody was beat to death. I've seen a black man shot to death and die in his own blood on video. These are things that are never going to leave our collective consciousness. And these are the people that I'm fighting for. Um, what happened to George Floyd? First of all, let's talk about the questions there are about them. I mean, now it's being put out on Fox News. Candace Owens has reported on this. I mean, we've all been seeing some of these dots that we don't understand why they're connected. First of all, to watch that police officer put his knee on somebody's neck for 9 minutes. The really interesting part is for 3 minutes after that body stopped moving, with almost no human, like no natural human interaction, like our primitive brain, right? Like our reptilian brain, we have instincts, and one instinct would be if somebody stops moving underneath you, you're going to check and see what's wrong. That never happened with that person. I mean, there was no normal human behavior in that entire 9 minutes. So that was my first clue, because I have a background in MK Ultra, so I understand that there are ways that, you know, our personalities can be divided, and you know, certain responses are actually engineered out of us, and so we don't act normal, and we don't follow normal the instinct brain, not the thinking brain, the instinct brain that happens naturally. You know, so when I don't see those things happening, I start wondering, is this MK Ultra? Is that, you know, certain things just didn't make sense. So back to that, you know, and then finding out that the two of them worked together, now it's even more outside of the norm of natural human reaction, because now you're telling me they knew each other. I'm actually a former bartender. I was a bartender for a long time in my previous life in this incarnation. And I knew all of my barbacks, all of my security, all of my cocktail waitresses, my managers, my owners, of course my bartenders, you know, because in the bar world, it's us against them, right? Because it is literally, you've got 5 or 6 people caring for 200 drunk people, you know what I mean? And so it's very tight knit, whether it's your first shift or your 100th shift together. That's just the mentality of the bar world. And so there's absolutely no way in my mind that those two worked in the same position at the same bar and did not know who each other were. So now we know that they knew each other. So these are things that are not making sense, right? Again, here's what I want a lot of people to understand. Questioning narratives and doing research and connecting dots does in no way, shape, or form condone any behavior at all. You know, just because I say that there's something else going on doesn't mean that I agree with how George Floyd was murdered, and I agree that he was murdered. But it's the why and the how that I have to question, because it's the why and the how that are currently causing civil unrest nationwide that people are dying because of. So it is my responsibility as a human being, then as an American citizen, to question these narratives. Because if we are looting and rioting and then supporting this looting and rioting because of said narrative, but that narrative is false, now we're all being played. You know, and that's what I really want. You know, every day, that's kind of what I'm fighting to get people to understand, is that I'm actually never even really addressing, you know, racism or the, you know, the difference between black and white or oppression. Actually, I'm never really addressing that. I'm always addressing Antifa, Soros, the narrative, you know what I mean? But because I'm not condoning the looting and the rioting. You know, I've got a lot of old friends from my old life because I come from the liberal side. You know, I was married to a woman before. I am vegan. I used to drive a Prius. Like, I rescue animals. Like, I come from that world. And so I kind of have a foot in both communities. And so I keep trying to bridge with compassionately back to the liberal side, because I was that person. Like, I understand the bleeding heart syndrome. I understand how they hijacked us. Like, they literally hijacked the bleeding hearts of the world, and that's how they infiltrated that side to enact their, you know, New World Order agenda. And I saw how that happened. I had to wake up from that. You know what I mean? I had to find out that I was actually used to do that and to enact that. And so my goal is always to try to help bridge the gap between the left and the right. But I do it in a very direct way. You know, that's just kind of my nature and my style. But once, like, I reach you, like, I will hold your hand all the way through, because I understand. I am one of the bleeding hearts that got hijacked, so there's no way for me to not respond in that manner. But I have to break through with the truth first. And that's what I try to do every day, because I keep saying that the truth will set us all free. You know, this is
Yeah.
not a truth
Yeah.
for the white community, the black community, the liberal community, the conservative community, the Trump haters, the Trump supporters. It's not about, there's one truth, and we are all being played. We are all being suppressed. We are all being turned on each other, like engineered that way.
Yeah.
And and so I always say, what I'm fighting for is for the truth to set us all free. But it has to be the real truth. Like, we have to look down the rabbit holes that we don't want to look at, and we have to face the idea that we have all been lied to. Meaning the white and the black, the left and the right, the gay and the straight. That, you know what I mean? All of it. That's why for me, my platform is so important for me to get across to everybody that as soon as we go like this and we turn it all on them, it's over. Literally game over. And so that's my fight, and that's why and I say fight because I feel like I have been fighting for the last 8 or 9 days straight, trying to convince people that I'm not a racist, trying to convince people that black conservative leaders in the community their voices being drowned out systematically by the mainstream media, by the left, by, I've finally realized that if, as a white person, if we agree with black liberals, then we're an ally. But if we agree with black conservatives, we're racist. And I realized that because it happened to me. You know what I mean? Because everything I've put up on Awakening Humanity or my own personal page has been a black voice. But I still routinely have been defending myself and my position because the white liberal side just is so estranged from facts and like non-emotional responses, that's really what have been fighting. I've been fighting triggers for the last 9 days. Really is all it is. And so I don't know if I answered any of your questions. I know I probably just vented a lot because it's been a long week, but that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Well, and if you think, and you talked about MK Ultra, and I get it because I had the same situation in my background. But ultimately, this is one ginormous MK Ultra situation.
Mm-hmm.
Where yes, there are individuals who had problems and were taken, and different things happen to these children, and then there's also the big, humongous general MK Ultra that has been going on since Second World War.
Yeah.
Paperclip and Mockingbird and the Blue Projects and all these other projects that have been going on, with the CIA basically owning Hollywood and infiltrating like every single program, all the commercials, setting up. Do you think it's a coincidence that Space Force, the TV show that's on Netflix, just came out like in the last week or so? And of course, it's a big mockery of Trump, and I love Steve Carell, and I love The Office, and I'm like a freak over it. So when it came out, I was like, oh my gosh! And then, but there's these little subtle like drops in there,
Yeah.
like to make this all like fun and cartoony, and like we're in the Flintstones or something. When it's like, no, actually, this has been going on way before a flag was announced a few weeks ago. Like this is that there was the secret one before the real, the public one, and then of course, anyway, but when we follow the money, of all these like celebrities who are funding stuff and governmental officials who are funding, and Soros, and it's interesting now to see like Timberlake and all these others who are popping up going like, hey, send money over here or whatever. It's like, why are we not sending money to the actual businesses that are being looted?
Mm-hmm.
Who are include, like you said, on a humanity side, not about a race side, because there's black and whites that are losing their businesses,
Right.
or have lost them, losing their lives, losing their businesses, losing just their ability or their emotions and their ability to go to sleep at night and not be worried about things. Like I said, my friends even going to the funeral, she's worried about leaving her kids at home, and they're all like packing and having mace and teaching their kids how to shoot and stuff because their dad's a police officer and they have this real threat going on. It's just
Right.
like, really? But yeah, and now they've just announced that the funeral that they're going to do, that all is going to be open, and whoever, which I'm sure no one's going to wear masks and everyone's going to be fine, but yet, like, my mom wants to go see her mother in a nursing home, and we can't do that. And, like, I had to drop my cat off yesterday for surgery and couldn't even go inside to bring the cat in for surgery or be there and wait for him. I had to sit in my car outside and wait. My daughter had surgery. Her husband had to sit in the parking lot and wait and couldn't go in. It's like,
Yeah.
isn't it interesting that all these riots, like, no one's wearing masks and everything's, it's like, oh, forget about the COVID pandemic. And I say demic,
Yeah.
meaning as in demonic and democratic. So thoughts on
Yeah, I
that?
said in a post the other day that I figured out what I said. Did we discover the cure for COVID-19? And is it protesting? I said, or is the cure for one false flag another false flag? Like, is that how that works? Yeah, and one thing I'd love to point out now, just why we have an audience, is that I'm sure your audience is probably like hip to this concept of false flags, but again, just a reminder for everybody that a false flag does not mean false death. False flag does not mean false destruction, does not mean a false event. A false flag just means that it's a smoke and mirrors event. So there are very real people dying. There are very real people suffering. There are very real people having their lives destroyed. But the narrative that is being told to us, it's, the George Floyd is an excellent example. The narrative is that yet another innocent black man is slaughtered by another racist, inhumane white cop. And actually, Candace Owens just came out yesterday, finally, with her stance on it, and a really, I loved it, and I can understand it from her perspective, that she's tired of raising up criminal members of the black communities as their martyrs and as their heroes, and so she actually went through George Floyd's rap sheet, and he actually, almost all of his crimes were violent. They included guns, they included weapons. One of them was forcing his way into the home of a pregnant woman with 5 other men and putting a gun on her stomach, telling her to stay put. And the way Candace ended that, I don't know what the outcome is. I know that eventually a neighbor called the police, and I believe that was one of his stints in jail, was because of that. But between the pornography and the meth, and he had meth and, was it fentanyl, in his system. So clearly, I mean, he was in porn. He was high on drugs that day. He had a very, very violent rap sheet of, I think, starting in 1988. Which none of those are death sentences. That does not excuse or condone the way that it happened. But if you couple that with his connection to the officer that killed him, and the way that the other officers around almost stood guard to let it happen, one of the greatest theories that I've seen so far is that it was a hit. It was a hit, that possibly I don't know about the club that they worked at. I don't know if they were in porn together. I've heard that theory. I haven't verified that for myself. But clearly they were associated with each other. And again, that if that was a hit caught on camera, or a hit to incite these riots and to incite this civil unrest, that would explain, it checks a lot of boxes. That would explain the no reaction from Derek Chauvin, however you say his last name. That would explain that mugshot. Who is that guy? I don't like the mugshot of the police officer, of the guy, of the Derek Chauvin, is not the same person. You don't need to be a conspiracy theorist to understand. You just have to look at it. Like, it's clearly, the person looks like 10 years younger. Hairlines are different. I mean, it's blatant right off the bat. Like, when I saw it, I was like, who is this? And someone said, that's the mugshot. I said, no, it's not. They were like, yeah, it is. Even the theory that Derek Chauvin has been taken out, and he's not even alive anymore. there's just a lot of things that if we don't understand, again, if we don't understand the narrative and the why, then it continues to fuel this division between us that is literally killing innocent people. I was trying to look up today how many deaths we've had in the riots, and I mean, I haven't slept a lot of nights knowing these police officers have been murdered and knowing that these business owners have been. I mean, I've had friends and family in Arizona that I've called to make sure that they have weapons, they know somebody with weapons, they have a safe place to go, they have escape routes from their neighborhoods because of the threats that we've heard about in certain areas of the Phoenix metro area. Um, it's just, it's beyond me how the left excuses these things for this narrative. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't. Here's the thing. I've done research into satanic ritual abuse, the MK Ultra abuse. I have personal stories. I'm connected to these things in a lot of different ways personally. So I'm personally invested in bringing justice to these situations and rescuing a lot of people. And I know who the bad actors are, and I know who the evil ones are, and all these things. Even knowing the degree of that, I would still never condone riots. I would still never condone a lynch mob to go get them from their house. I would never, I'm talking about the Hillary Clinton, the Soros, the Rothschilds, and believe me, I hate them on a level that just ignites my shadow side. You know what I mean? Like, very deeply. But I would never, for that justice, rioting is not okay. Like, innocent people dying for them, it just that the programming has been so complete that their support it, and then the most mind-boggling thing is like when those looters turn on you, when they come for your neighborhood, when they come for your home, do you think that you're going to be able to say, no, wait, guys, I've been supporting you all along? You're not. You know what I mean? They can take out you, your family, your business, your home, your property, like all of these things. Like, it will just happen. And so it's amazing to me, the disconnect intellectually with what's going on and the result, and that people are still supporting it. Um, and I don't think I spoke anything about you. I know you talked about COVID, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
took it a
no,
different direction.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you had this game when you were a kid, but we had this game, and I know there's a newer version, but we had a game that we would be sitting in the cafeteria or whatever at school, and one person would be like, "Oh, look," and try to see how many people. It's just an automatic reaction to
Mm-hmm.
get somebody else to look if you just point up. And now I know, like, just for my kids or whatever, there's a new one where they do like this little thing and they put it like, down by their leg or whatever. And if you look down, then they like thump you or something. And I
Yeah.
don't know what the game is called. What
It's
you
called
know what I'm talking about?
Gotham. It's called Gotham, and it's not new. Except now there's like technology, and now you can actually text people with that. So when they open their text, they have to see it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's been around a while.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think we called it that when we were kids, but that's exactly what this is on a huge mass scale. Is like everyone look that way, like
Mm-hmm.
all of the TV, all of the radio, all of the music, all of the news, everything is pointing to what they want you to see, based on what the CIA wants you to see
Right.
through working with Mockingbird and Hollywood, and then all of these like fake things right now going on, whether it's the COVID stuff, um, which by the way, suicide is up 600%,
Jesus.
because people have been locked into their houses, and divorce is higher than ever. As a doctor, I'm getting all the calls from people who are losing their minds because they're losing their businesses and they're getting sick physically, and or they're losing loved ones because things aren't getting detected early on like they should, because they're not going to doctors regularly. There's just different, they're doing things
Mm-hmm.
different, and then of course everything's being coded COVID. So there's all these false numbers. There's false, you can go to Target. You can't go to Target, but you can golf, you know, there's, I mean, different businesses are doing different things, different, it's all so insane, to the fact that we actually had a funeral for someone close to me last week who was so freaked out by the illusion of all of this that they have put on in this narrative, that he actually took his life in fear of this being like the end of the world, or that, you know, the sign of the beast, the end of the beast, sign of the beast stuff with the vaccinations things and the chips, and then also, you know, not being in work for the last 2 or 3 months, and just, you know, sitting around being locked up, I'm sure, just cooped up. I mean, and he's not the only one, because when I posted that it happened, I cannot even tell you how many inboxes I got. Inbox after inbox, me too, me too, me too, me too, me too, or my family member, or my friend, or my neighbor. I mean, it was insane the amount of people who contacted me after I just made that one post about losing a team member. And, you know, but so all these other things are going on, and meanwhile, Hillary's in trial and all these indictments. And is that on the news? Is anyone talking about that? I mean, unless it was for us and other people that I know, and or even people that I don't know that are putting things on Facebook, like, would anyone even be talking about any of this?
No, the general public knows very little. I would say about it's essentially the Obamagate Senate hearings have started. You know, Hillary had her day, and I believe that she lost an appeal. I know Rod Rosenstein, Rod Rosenstein. He had his day, and then I believe tomorrow, I think maybe, or I think after Rod, there was supposed to be a vote about bringing on about hearing testimony from more Obama White House officials. So I'm not even as up to date and current with that, because I've been, you know, eyeballs deep in the current, the riot stuff and the current false flag. You know, I'm so sorry for your loss. And you know, I've told you a few times, but I really, my heart goes out to there. There's all of the suffering, right? And the suffering is the point. And that's why I wish people understood. You know, I realized a few years ago, you know, when the mass shootings, and if anybody has noticed, have died down since President Trump has taken office. You know, prior to that, it was like a war zone every day. You know what I mean? Elementary schools, high schools, clubs. And by the way, I'm from Orlando. Those bars that I worked at, Pulse, I still had friends that were bartending that night at Pulse, because I bartended in a lot of clubs in Orlando, and Pulse was like a sister bar. So it was very personal to me. And it was, I mean, like I said, I know people that were there that night. But seeing all of these, you know, I went through that phase of, after a false flag, wanting to jump directly into going after the people that are responsible, just like everybody else does, right? Because that's our natural response. But because me and the people I work with, we understand that there is a different person responsible than the mainstream narrative. As soon as we start doing that, then you get all the people going, do you really have to start the conspiracy theory stuff this soon? Can't you be respectful? Can't you let them have their time? And like da-da-da. And people don't realize there's no greater respect than seeking justice for somebody that was, you know what I mean, that died
Oh my God,
injusticely. You know what I mean? Like I want, that's what we're doing. But because they don't understand that, you know what I mean? They see it as conspiracy theory stuff, but that's not what it is, right? Like, we know that there are other people involved in these deaths and these killings, and that are happening to us. It's happening to us, to the humans, to humanity, you know. And we want to go after the people that did it, just like they think that, you know, a terrorist, you know, somebody from the Middle East that just kind of, I don't remember who they blamed Pulse on, but you know what I mean? Like, they want to go after those people, and it's like, that's what we're doing too. We're doing the exact same thing. We just happen to have a little bit more information than anybody else. So I mean, I want you to know that all of the suffering that we're all going through, from, like you said, the domestic violence numbers, the suicide rates, these police officers that are being killed. I think there's even I haven't been able to confirm it yet. I'm still trying to find like one list of all the deaths in the riots, but I'm pretty sure that there were civilians killed in these riots. I mean, I've seen pictures. I've just never been able to find out their names or their stories or who they are. I found one from Forbes today, but I'm still in the middle of verifying it. But it's all these people that I wish people understood that a lot of people in my line of work, in our line of work, like what we do for a living, these are the people that we're fighting for every day, because we want to see their real killers brought to justice, and that's people very high above the person that even pulled the trigger.
Yeah, but it's amazing to me still that people actually don't think that this is a setup. And you post the truth, you post the science of COVID, you post the science of buses, literal buses being put in. I mean, there's even people on the regular news, police officers and government officials on the regular news who are literally saying that they had a protest that was supposed to be peaceful, but then buses were coming in from out of town, so they shut it down to whatever. And even in Minneapolis, they're saying that most of the people in the riots in Minneapolis were people who were not living there. So does that not, to me, this is like common sense situation where, like, but then other people are still with the conspiracy theory, whatever. And I've even had people say, well, you're not spiritual, or you're not a Christian, or you're not whatever. I don't even know what I am, but I'm just saying, like, all the name calling and or the negativity about posting something like that, when it's just like, no, actually, whether it's Jesus or whatever, it's like the truth is still the truth, and part of being the truth is, there is source God, who is truth, who is a being, and that's what the important thing is. It's like, I remember waking up in my part of this years ago, and I called someone who I knew had been talking about these things for about a decade, and I was in my wake up of remembering MK Ultra stuff and just like really freaking out, because I was realizing, oh my God, I've had the same memories and the same flashes, and none of them are changing. And I had to come to the conclusion that there's a possibility that maybe this isn't just my imagination and I'm having a bad day over and over and over again, seeing these same spots. And I called someone, and my basic conversation was them. I don't care if you tell me that Cookie Monster is my father. I just have to know the truth. Like, I honestly didn't care. I knew it was going to be upsetting, and I knew that it would be a lot of integration involved, but I was still willing to go there because I had to know. And I'm still on that ship for sure, of still retrieving some of that and trying to make sense of some of these things. But also on this level here, it's about being true. And what do you say to the people who are talking about Q, Trump, whatever, and still cannot get there? Like, what?
So for me, this is actually something that I touched on. I did a live on my show. I went live on Awakening Humanity the other day. And I'll just pick this time to plug this really quick, guys. If you want to find me on Facebook or Twitter, the brand is Awakening Humanity. The handles are at Awoke Humanity for both. So, so I had done a live on Awakening Humanity the other day because I felt that tension building up, and you know what I mean? Like a conversation just needed to be started. And one of the points that I brought up in that, or maybe it was an interview I did with Adam Riva on Dauntless Dialogue, was there's this portion of the Matrix movie where Morpheus, after Neo wakes up, when Morpheus first takes Neo back into the Matrix, into the training program, he explains to Neo that that the people that are still plugged in will attack him to protect their own reality. So they will, even though he's the one in there trying to save everybody, they will actually go after him because they realize that he is outside of the Matrix construct, which is reality to them, right? And so I always make that point that's another really critical point in that documentary, as we all know that it is. That's just as true as a lot of the other realities in that movie. So what that means is that we have to meet people where they're at, because they very much they're not attacking us. They're not attacking really even the information. They're actually, their brain is preserving their reality, right? And it's happening so deep in their consciousness that they're, you know what I mean, like that's why we call it being asleep. That's why we call it an awakening and waking up, because we don't know what we don't know until we know it. And um, you know, one thing that I do want to make very clear, because I don't want there to be any confusion from this video, my stance on my support for Black Americans, is that a part of the awakening process is having compassion and understanding, and just listening to everybody's trauma, because we are an extremely traumatized planet by design. All of us are traumatized. Black, white, men, women, gay, straight, like, I mean, doesn't matter the country, doesn't matter the nationality. They have indiscriminately traumatized all of us. Um, so really understanding that there that everybody's traumas still have to be reconciled, and everybody's traumas still have to be healed for themselves. And then and one person is just the micro to the next macro, and that macro is the micro to the next macro, and so forth. You know, it's the holographic universe, and so a fractal universe. And so, you know, one person, we it's crucial to listen to Black Americans and what they feel they have lived with, you know, on this planet. They deserve to be heard, and they deserve a voice. What I'm fighting is, I'm fighting the mainstream media's voice. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm trying to get out of the way, because if you talk to Black conservatives, if you follow these Black leaders in the conservative communities, um, they tell a very different story of what it's like to live in America than if you listen to the mainstream liberal left narrative. So for me, I'm not, justice is very important to me. And when I see injustice happening, I've been this way since I was a little kid. I've actually had therapists call me out on it because sometimes I do it. I can bring it out of balance, you know, when I'm trying to save the world. Um, but when I see injustices happening, I'm always going to step in and try to right that wrong. And that's what I feel like I'm doing. That's why I'm advocating so hard for the Black conservative voice, or just lifting them up. I mean, they don't need me to fight for them, you know, but it doesn't matter if they're blue conservative voices. I don't care. The fact that anybody's being suppressed by, you know, this Luciferian, Illuminati, deep state, whatever's happening, like, that's who I want to fight for. That's the wrong that I want to make right. So it's just really about that balance of finding, you know, truth is truth, and truth is irrelevant to our beliefs. Truth is indifferent to our feelings. You know, truth is a resonance. Truth is a frequency, and the truth will always rise to the top. That's just the nature of the frequency of truth. Um, so there's that balance of being authentic with the truth, but also being compassionate to the people that just haven't got there yet. You know, and so it's a tightrope. No, I don't think any of us do it perfectly. I know I don't do it perfectly, but that's always in my mind, is compassion this way, and not allow the false narratives to bury the truth, in support of that compassion. Like, it's got to be both, you know, because time's up. Time's just up. Like, we have to. It's now or it's now. That's it.
Yeah, and I just watched a video. You probably have seen it too. It's the guy who's saying the F word like 45 times a minute. Which
Young Pharaoh.
I wish he was it. Who is it?
Is that his name, Young Pharaoh?
I don't know. The one he was going into the whole history of the KKK and the Republic, and like how the whole Republican Party was actually started by Black people, and the KKK is the Masonic people on the Illuminati, and you know, just that whole. I mean, it's like a 2.5 hour video. I haven't even watched the whole thing yet, but I was just like that, and I think you know James Ring. He's one of the super soldier MK Ultra kids too, or say kid. You know, I don't know how old he is. Um, and he's got this whole documentary on Nasara, and it's about Nasara, but it's really not about Nasara. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it. I'll send it to you. But
Yeah, I'd like it.
it's like 2.5 hours too, and it goes into the history of basically how the Illuminati and the Rothschilds and all that have set us up over and over and over to have civil wars, to do all these things because they're collecting on the back end of everything. How they couldn't get Canada and Mexico to do all this stuff to us, so they had to start a war within the United States back in and with Abraham Lincoln and all the other different things that they have been infiltrating through, and then how taxes don't really go to the United States government at all on the Treasury Center, which Reagan actually said out loud and was offed about it. Lincoln was offed about it. I mean, the documentary, I'm actually interviewing him later this month, but he's got all his ducks. Both of these guys had actual history and documents proving everything, so it's not just like he's saying, oh yeah, I heard this somewhere. I mean, they're showing everything, in between the cursing on the one. I was just like, okay, but there's so much that's being uncovered right now. And I know with Trump making that executive order about censorship, I was in jail, Facebook jail, for over 30 days from being able to do lives. And then I don't know if I'm sure you're getting this too, where almost everything I'm posting is being flagged and fact checked. And, this isn't fit community standards. I've had 2 or 3 of our groups actually shut down. I had one with 135,000 people in it that were shut down because it doesn't fit community standards. And I mean, just completely poof, gone, like totally gone. All so it's like they're working overtime to make sure that we're not talking. And then they said to Trump in the video, I watched the video of him live when he was signing the order, and they were asking him, so are you going to shut down your Twitter? They're asking Trump, are you going to shut down your Twitter since you're so against Twitter and upset about the censorship? And his reply was, well, if you guys weren't such big fakes, then I wouldn't have to, because he said, you guys put something out, some crazy narrative that's untrue, that's not documented, that's completely made up, that gives you your spin, and in 2 seconds, this is Donald Trump saying, I can post something on Twitter and it goes to 80 million people that is the correct narrative and the actual truth of what was said or what happened, and it goes out to people and completely bypasses anybody who needs to look through anything that's posted, which we know all the news shows get the same exact narrative and they just read off the copy of what's copy and pasted to everybody.
Sure.
But I love that he was just like, no, because you guys are all fakers, and this is the platform for right now.
Yeah.
And until you guys start telling the truth, then I guess I'm still going to have Twitter and keep on posting the truth. But we only have a couple minutes, but briefly about Q. Talk to me about Q and where you're at with that, because I know you're a big follower of that, and I know we have a couple minutes, and that's not an easy couple-minute answer.
No, that's okay, because I was actually it was going to naturally dovetail into that. What's really what's great about the story you just told about the president and his Twitter is that we've known this for years, because this is intel that we put together years ago, that's why the president uses Twitter. That is why the president commandeered social media for his own purposes back from the campaign, because that was the only way to bypass the mainstream media propaganda machine, propaganda arm of the deep state. And that was the only way to do so. And so one example that it just tickled me pink recently is actually this looters and shooters controversy, right? So the president puts out a tweet, and mind you, people, I am still a normal human. There are times that I see tweets of his and I'm like, oh, like, what are you thinking? Like, where's this going? You know what I mean? Like, ouch. But this is where that one was going. So he puts out that tweet. It is my absolute belief that he baited Twitter to censor him for that, so that he could then come back and say, all I meant was, because he purposely said it a certain way, which here's what everybody needs to understand. one of the most hilarious character assassinations on him via the mainstream media is that he's an idiot. This man has an IQ of a genius. This man has built billion-dollar empires. This man, he is so smart that he makes smart people look dumb, right? Like he is literally IQ level genius, guys. So the fact that like we're just getting spoon-fed and that people are actually swallowing, the fact that they think that he does things that just make no sense, or he's just rage tweeting, or he's just da 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 da. It's like, guys, come on. Like, how do you not know that we're getting played here? Like, the man is brilliant, and he's got the most brilliant people around him. Like, I promise you, nothing is by chance, nothing is a mistake. To include that looters and shooters comment. He said the comment in the middle, right before he's about to write an executive order on social media censorship. He baits Twitter into censoring him, which they do, and then he comes back around and says, what I meant was looting causes shooting, because by the time he came back out with that, we had literally just had I think St. Louis had 4 police officers shot in the looting, you know what I mean, in the looting sprees that night. So literally, like, he says it a certain way to garner certain responses from either the mainstream media, the social media giants, like whatever it is, and they fall for it hook, line, and sinker every time. And then he comes back and he comes around and he smacks them with an executive order on censorship, which is clearly just laying bricks down for grander moves, I believe, as far as the censorship is going. Because we all know that it's not going to get any better leading up to the election, so we have to know that he knows that too. One thing I would like to point out about Q today, Q actually sent us a Google trend for Black Lives Matter on Google. And from, I think he started 2015 to current. And it's literally this steady, normal little, like, kind of does one of these things. The summer before the 2016 elections, spike. Literally, summer, spike in BLM on Google, meaning something happened. There was some, you know what I mean? There was a controversy, something was going on. Hello?
Hey, are you there?
I am, but I can hear myself like coming back to me. I don't know what's happening.
Uh-oh.
Do I sound normal to you guys?
You sound normal, yeah.
Okay. Um,
That's weird. I hear you now.
it,
Anyway, we're about to wrap up anyway, but finish what you were saying and then remind everybody how to get back to how people can follow you, get you.
it's weird. Like our audio just keeps. Well, apparently I wasn't supposed to finish that thought because I just keep getting our audio played back to me.
Oh, that's so weird.
Audio just keeps. Well, apparently. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened.
So tell us how, as we wrap up real quick, tell us how we can all find you and be able to keep up with what you're doing.
Okay, guys, so you guys can find me on Awakening Humanity on Facebook, Awakening Humanity on Twitter. Both handles are at AwokeHumanity. My personal Twitter is at KalynAnn222, and Kalyn Ann on Facebook. I also have an Instagram. There's nothing there yet. I'm still working on that. So I'm hearing me come back. Maybe this will be better. So I hope. Sorry, I didn't get to finish the Q thought. Not really sure where I was going with that now because I just keep hearing myself come back to me, and
Yeah, take
both
them
of us
out
actually.
because it's
So
not echoing.
I'm gonna. I'm
Yeah,
just
just
gonna
take
let.
them out. Take them out real quick. Can you hear? No, you can't hear. Can you hear me? No. Okay. Thank you so much for being with us and appreciate your time. I know how crazy busy. I mean, I've been trying to get you on like 3 times now, and it's just been like,
Sorry.
but this was the time to be here, and we will see you again very soon. And I have another interview coming up here with Patrick and Crystal. Patrick is a police officer and we were going to be interviewing him and just getting some feedback on what his life looks like right now for him and his family and what's going on. But to get more information from me, you can go to swiftfire.org. Dr. Sharnael Wolverton-Sehon on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I have a ton of YouTube videos, and I know Kalyn's all over the place too. So this will be just the beginning of more lives now that I'm out of Facebook Live jail. And I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for your time here tonight. And you guys keep on truthing, keep on loving, keep on doing thoughtful, wonderful, healthy things for your neighbors and for your friends and for your family. Keep praying, keep meditating, eat good, drink good, get grounded, get outside, get in nature, do all the things that you can to keep your own sanity in the middle of this. Drink a lot of water, stay hydrated, do all the things that you need to do. Take your vitamin smoothies, all of that stuff to stay high vibe above all of this low frequency stuff. All right. I love all of you. Talk to you soon. All right. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.